good morning, humanity. It's February 1st, 2021, and it's that favorite time of the week because it's again Mondays with Bev and Paul. And hi, everybody, my name's Paul.
Good morning. This is Bev.
Hello, Bev. Good
Hello,
morning.
Paul. Good
Happy
morning.
February 1st, yeah?
Oh, hey, I just thought about something. Tomorrow's Groundhog Day, isn't it?
Groundhog Day. Oh, get down, get down, get
Just
down.
thought I'd throw that out there.
All right, I guess we wait for Polkadonus or Pocahontas, whatever his name is. Whether we got spring or fall or winter or whether
Yeah.
it's the future or the past. But today we know what we have. We have BioTouch.
And we
And
have the present.
we have the present, and we're going to bring you a present because we're
I
going to talk about letting ourselves be loved in grief.
mm,
Yeah, we're going to build on our really wonderful workshop we had with Karyn Arnold, who again is with griefincommon.com. If you missed that little workshop, it's on our YouTube, Facebook page. It's on our website under Crisis Grief up on top there. And it was a great presentation, but we want to build on some of those key points that we thought. And one of those was about the concept of letting ourselves be loved.
mm.
And why is BioTouch such an important opportunity to do that? And I just think we should start with the story you were just telling me before the show about that
Oh,
experience you had with your dear friend.
yes. Yeah. A couple years ago, a very dear friend of mine lost her daughter. And I was over at her house and, right in front of me, I mean, literally went down on her knees in grief. Wow, for a moment, I was just, I don't know where I was. I just lost consciousness. And all of a sudden, I just literally lifted her, put her in a chair, and started doing biotouch on her. It's the only thing I had because there's no way I could understand what she was going through, the loss of a child. There's no way.
Right.
So I did what I had in my toolbox that I knew was loving and would connect her with someone who really cared about her in the moment. I did the greeting, I did the stress, and I did the head. That just all three of those. And you know what? She just took this big breath into her body and she calmed down. And we were both, I was crying the whole time, but I
Wow.
had something to give to her in that moment. Thankful, very thankful.
Yeah. And that's the key to being able to practice BioTouch. One of the things we talked about and Karyn talked about was this is not about trying to change people. It's not about trying to get them out of their grief. It's about being present. One of the things Karyn talked about, which was really cool, is people in grief. It's almost like a trauma response that we've heard about, where the front and back lobes aren't connecting, and so you don't know where you are in time and space.
Mm,
And
yes.
and Karyn's little tool was just look down at your feet,
Yeah.
and our little tool is just do the greeting and even just A, which brings us both into that present moment.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was doing BioTouch with her, I felt like I was meeting her in her grief.
Interesting.
I was not trying to fix it because there's no way I could have done that. But I also knew that she needed to go through the process. But with me being present with her in that moment, that BioTouch brings to each of us this relationship of really loving care and understanding and just being with someone, everything was okay. I mean, it was really, and I don't mean to take away or negate anything, but it was just kind of a reminder for both of us that life was present, even in the
Right.
midst of all of this grief and loss for her. So, I don't know why in that I can fix you or I'm going to change something for you. I think that's pretty impossible because Karyn brought up a really good point that you and I were talking about earlier. And when you said, to love yourself, I've always thought that, everybody's, I've actually said to people, oh, we must learn to love ourselves as everyone else. And I've had people say, wow, isn't that egotistical? And I thought, well, how can that be? If you can't love yourself, then really you have nothing to base it on. Because Karyn brought up, she says the dialogue, inner dialogue that she has had with herself, she would never say those things to her daughters
Right, right.
because she loves her daughters. Why would she talk down to her daughters? Oh, well, why am I doing that to me? So this inner dialogue has to be about love. And isn't that what BioTouch really encourages in each one of us? We call it self-awareness, but it really is becoming self-aware that you're worthy of loving yourself and others. Love is the key. Everything we've always said, but it really has to begin with each of ourselves to nourish and self-care during grief or loss. Karyn also brought that up, right?
Right. Yes, that's the key. And
Yeah.
what's nice about that is, when you talk about self-awareness, it becomes, if I'm in the presence with someone who's grieving, I get a chance to grieve.
Yes.
I get a chance to feel that in myself if I just do this greeting and I do this little bit of biotouch, like happened to you. You just started bawling.
Yeah.
It allows both of us to be vulnerable. It allows both of us to
Right.
let ourselves be loved and stop judging ourselves. Well, we're always judging ourselves.
I know.
And so if we judge ourselves and all of a sudden we wake up to it, oh, okay, and then we fall back asleep. Jenny said something to me yesterday. We were fooling around. She goes, you know, do you love yourself as much as I love you? And I thought, wow, that's an
Wow.
interesting concept. Do I really? And
I know.
so we're always looking for it outside, and it sits within us, and we don't have to change it. This is not about making huge changes in our life. That's why BioTouch represents this ability to just let ourselves be loved. This is not about changing ourselves. It's not about getting rid of our anger. It's not about getting rid of our lust, greed, and stupidity. Uh, it's about just accepting those are fleeting things, and that deep part that BioTouch does the minute we take those two fingers and do the greeting opens up the glory of who we are as human beings. That's a good word for it. And we
Yeah.
see it over and over. Louis, who really taught me a lot about this letting ourselves be loved, and uh, we used to do BioTouch with him, and he had what people considered Alzheimer's, but I'm not really sure it was that. I think it was a way for him to commune with the angelic realm or something. But when we did BioTouch with him, he would melt and he would just say, that touch, it's just saying to the body, I love you.
Yeah.
Follow me. It's all okay. And he would say it just like that. And BioTouch took him out of some pretty, I mean, almost one time, almost when he was dying. But he always used to just say, it's just about letting yourselves be loved. It's so simple. We just never get around to it.
Well, it's gentle. Isn't love is gentle. It is, it reminds us how really worthy each of us are. There's this sense of something greater than this little self that deals with all of this, you know, judging and criticism and self um, annihilation, and and then you have something like BioTouch that really it's this point of light in the darkness. It breaks through and creates an opening where not only can we really experience love with another, but we can begin to really love ourselves, truly love ourselves, and take care of ourselves, nourish ourselves. That's what BioTouch it's a nurturing,
Right.
loving presence.
And so necessary in these days. Oh, I did want to take a
Yes.
moment. We have Clara with us. We haven't seen her in a while. She says, "Miss you
Clara.
guys."
Hi, Clara.
And Paul is telling us, yeah, BioTouch helps us hold space for grief, and that's an
Yeah.
interesting word too, space. When we're in grief, and Karen was talking about that, our everything collapses in us.
Yeah.
It's all about me, and then we just get in this cycle. And in that statement, the space that BioTouch gives us the opportunity, it expands it.
Yeah, it's an opening.
It's an
Sure.
opening, and it
Mhm.
allows one person to touch me. And I'll tell you, especially for your family, especially
Yeah.
because if you're in grief and your family, especially your children, they're sitting around and helpless. And many times, what we hear is the children almost feel like they're to blame. They
Yeah.
especially if they're young and your parent has died. They're like, oh man, did I create this problem? Just watched a TV show about that. The child felt like they were the problem. When imagine turning to our children and saying to them, Daddy needs your help. Just do this greeting.
Yeah.
Daddy needs your help. We're humans. Yeah, I'm your daddy, but I need help too. And then
Yeah.
it's what a talk about opening a space.
Yeah. There's a child in me that needs that touch, you know?
So we're just encouraging you to learn BioTouch. So let us show you, just take a moment here to show you a very simple set to do called the greeting.
The stress set may be used to address any manifestation of physical, emotional, or mental stress, as well as anxiety and shingles. Hold at X, which is in the fleshy area just below the bottom of the breastbone. It is the same as greeting point 1. Then with the other hand touch points 1 and 2, which are the same points as in the heart set. These points are found by imagining a line running from the notch at the top of the breastbone to a place on the left breast where the nipple would be on a youth. Divide this imaginary line into thirds. Point 1 is at the top of the first third. Point 2 is at the top of the second third. These points may be touched repeatedly, and remember to touch each point for at least 6 to 8 seconds.
Simple, to the point.
Yeah.
So we wanted to read to you from our manual, that same manual that we teach the technique, and it's called the dilemma. And it's just perfect around this topic that we're talking about of letting ourselves be loved. And so I'm going to show it on the screen. Go ahead, Bev.
Okay. And this is, yes, right from our dilemma, from our manual. So it says, to laugh is to risk appearing a fool. To weep is to risk appearing sentimental. To reach out for another is to risk involvement. To expose feelings is to risk rejection. To place your dreams before the crowd is to risk ridicule. To love is to risk not being loved in return. To go forward in the face to risk failure.
But risks must be taken because the greatest hazard in life is to risk nothing. The person who risks nothing, does nothing, has nothing.
He may avoid suffering and sorrow, but he cannot learn, feel, change, grow, or love. Chained by his certitudes, he is a slave. He has forfeited his freedom. Only a person who takes risks is free.
There you go. We're
And
hearing a lot about freedom.
yeah, I was thinking, we need to, I've had so many people say to me, oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to break down or grieve. And I always think, oh my gosh, this is a process that mentally, emotionally, physically, we have to let ourselves go through. So risk being vulnerable, risk going through that process of grieving and mourning. And there's no set time limit. Karyn brought that out
Right.
very, very much the other evening. My gosh, it could be years. Just love yourself and let yourself risk that and go through that process of grief.
So it's in the beginning of our manual because even practicing biotouch is a risk. It's allowing yourself to love someone. It's allowing yourself to be loved. And that is a risk. And then let the story unfold. We don't know what the story is. That's the beauty of the presentation of biotouch. That risk, we shared it because Kai has been sharing Flashback Fridays. Tune into our website, Facebook post, because she's going through all the past newsletters and things. So that was nice to have that as our flashback.
Yeah.
And we have other ways to learn this technique. One of them is, whoops, not there. It's right there. February 6th, that's this Saturday. We have some folks signing up for that already, 9 a.m. to 4:30. The nice part about it is 8 continuing education credits for massage therapists, doulas, and nurses. Only $60. I don't think you can get 8 CE credits for that, and learn something that you can actually do for your family, your friends, or in your profession. And then our next workshop, childhood ear infections. This could be fun, and we have a really medical doctor, Dr. Renee Flack. She's here in Tucson. She's practiced family medicine for years. So we're going to get a chance to hear about it. And we have some really good stories about childhood ear infections and how biotouch really helped with that. So join us for that.
That's not fun.
No.
Going through that with your child. I wish I'd had biotouch back in the day.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, and we actually have a doctor. He was a medical doctor who worked on his son who had ear infections every year, 2 or 3 a year. The minute he started doing biotouch on it, the next year he never had a one. It just sounds like a miracle, but it truly can happen, and it can happen for you sitting out there right now. Just taking those 2 fingers, reaching out and touching another one. Oh, I'm absolved of my grief here. All right. That was a great little show. If you have any topics you'd like us to talk about, just let us know. In 2 weeks, we have a very special guest. He helped create the foundation way back. He was actually Bev's teacher.
Was.
He's a lot younger than Bev, but he still was Bev's teacher.
Oh, wait a minute. A lot younger than Bev?
I think so.
Not that much younger.
He's a kid. So I guess he'll always be a kid to me.
He's a baby.
That's in a couple of weeks. So anyhow, thank you for joining us. Again, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, we're everywhere. So share biotouch with all your friends and family and let us know how we can help. Until then, we'll see you next week.
Have a wonderful week.
If pain has got you down and you live in town, take a trip down to Pima Street. The people down there are people who care. They will get you back on your feet. Put love into action. Put love into action. If you ever want to have any real satisfaction, choose love while you still can. Don't even try to understand. A healing grace in your own hands. Put love into action.